Well, welcome back, everybody, to Tech Whispers podcast. I'm Dan Roberts, and I'm so excited. We are in studio here in Pittsburgh at PMI Digital, and more on them later. Really crazy good production company. But I'm here to shine the light on a very special leader who mixes vision and velocity, culture, just really special. I've known him for many years, followed his career for many decades. And I can't wait to unpack his journey, his story. And as you know, we have several mystery questioners lined up. He has no idea who they are, but they cover all aspects of his career journey. So with that, I am excited to welcome my good friend, Bhaskar Ramachandran. Bhaskar, good to see you.
Good to see you, Dan.
Yeah.
Great to be with you.
We're in a pretty cool town, Pittsburgh. It's a hot tech town. You've been here for a few years, and warm welcome from the team. You know, you're Tech Whisperers Yeti, so that's a gift from the team to you. So, but it's always good to be with you, Bhaskar. We're going to talk a lot about PPG, the company, and before we go there, Bhaskar, I'd love to have you talk about the passion side of the business. You know, why you're so excited about this business, what this company's all about, just kind of the mantra, the motto of the company.
I think everybody knows we protect and beautify the world, right? And the important part here for me is the protect, right? Not a lot of companies will talk about a mission where they're protecting something, right? That comes above all else. It's about the environment, certainly. It's about people. It's about everything that we do. And we've been around for quite some time, 142 years now. And so we've seen a thing or two in that time frame. And we're a company of science, right? So all we think about is how can science make us better, right? Make the world a better place, right? Because everything that we touch has an element of science, has an element of coding, which is what we are. We are a codings company, one of the largest coding companies in the world. And how could we make it better? Not just better, how could we make it look better and feel better and be better, right? And that to us is really, really important.
Talk about the size, maybe some of the numbers that are important to you. Talk about the businesses, the industries, the kinds of customers, because probably everybody listening is a customer in one or more ways.
That's very true. And they probably don't even know it, right? So any surface that you touch and many surfaces that you don't ever touch, chances are PPG has coded it, right? It's some of the names, brand names, I cannot, for reasons of confidentiality, customer confidentiality, I cannot explicitly state. But several cars we code. So there is lots of things that's in the automotive space. Or if you have a fender bender and you take it to a local body shop, chances are they are using PPG coatings to apply to the vehicle and fix it up. And 40,000 body shops in the US alone. Right. So what we call the refinish business, right? So that's one of the segments. We talked about automotive OEM, then the refinish. Then we have architectural. In some parts of the world, we are bigger than the others, which is building paints, right? So we are pretty big in that space. And again, we sold off our US business on the architectural side, but we are huge. In Mexico, for example, we have a brand called Comex. We have 5,200 stores in Mexico alone, right? So it really depends on the part of the world. In the Nordics, we are the number one paint. Our brand name is called Tikkurila. So depending on the country, depending on the part of the world, the brand name will change. But the quality of the product that you get, the performance of the product that you get doesn't change, right? And the environmental friendliness, if you may, doesn't change. So that's the value that underpins everything that we do, right? Even bathtubs, for example, we got. Right. And many mobile phones that we code, all the brand names that everybody uses, we code them. So name a product. Almost every OLED screen has a coding on it, right? Chances are it's our coding, right? Because we do pretty much code most of them, except for, there's very few OLED manufacturers in the world, except for one, I think we code all of them, right? So that's the power of the ocean liners that ply the oceans. We code all the ocean liners because it's very important that they're very slippery, if you may, when they apply the ocean. So they don't consume a whole lot of fuel, but at the same time, they don't harm the marine life. That's very important. So these coatings are on the outside of the ships. So that's something we coat. A lot of the bridges, stadiums, I mean, several of these things. If you follow my LinkedIn, almost every week, I post something, some exciting stadium or some exciting project that we did in some part of the world. And, that's what we do.
You have a lot of excitement for your work. I love your post. Sometimes they're technology, a lot of times they're business. And one of the things I'm really impressed with your company is the financial. It's not even stability; it's just health over that duration, right? You're part of the executive team. Again, I want to get this right, but from a stock perspective, check me here. PPG has paid uninterrupted annual dividends since 1899. And annual dividend payment has increased every year for 53 years. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we are what Wall Street calls a dividend aristocrat. There are very, very few companies that have that. And, we are obviously proud of it, but with that comes a level of responsibility and this long-term mindset to manage the company for the next 140 plus years, right? So, and that's very important, right? It's not everything that we do is for the next quarter. Yes, we are a public company. We need to be conscious of the next quarter and the quarter after that. But there is a responsibility for the long term.
Right. Talk about your remit, your role. I mean, I mentioned that you're part of the executive team here, but what's the day job?
The day job is to serve this purpose, right, of protecting and beautifying in everything that we do. Yes, there is, cost pressures like everybody else. There is, doing better than our competition. But the way we define doing better than our competition, I think, is a little bit different, right? It is not just about beating the competition in terms of sheer numbers. This is really about, are we out there making the lives of our customers better? Right? Are we making them more productive? I mean, you might think, okay, paint more productive. I mean, how does this add up? The couple of examples I gave, for example, the ships example. If our coatings are on these ocean liners, you are going to consume less fuel. That's good for your business. Okay, that's good. There are others that can say that. But while you do that, you're not spoiling marine life. How many out there can say that? Okay, that's fine. What if I tell you, I know exactly when your ship or your vessel is going to be in the dry dock, in which port and for how long, and I use that opportunity to actually come and propose to you preemptively that I can provide you a coating, and because I know the wear characteristics of the coating you currently have, and I believe you need to do all of these so that it can be better for you, better for your financials, and it helps us in the time it's anyways going to be in the dry dock, right? So that's the technology-based value add, because, I mean, anybody can buy data points on where the different, named ocean liners are around the world. But we use that with our data and to figure out what we need to do and how we can add value.
Yeah. Well, I know you get up every day, you think about business impacting, customer impacting innovation. 1,500 colleagues that are part of your team. Talk about some of the platforms, some of the things you've brought to market that have been able to help the company win every day.
I think when we talk about strategy, to me, there is only one strategy. That is the business strategy, right? Our job is to, how could we use technology as the digital IT team to make things faster, better, more cost effective than the competition? And that's how we, in our mind, win in the marketplace, right? And our products speak for themselves, right? It's how do we take that product to the right place at the right time at the right price point so it actually starts to add value. And product is two things: what's in what we call in the can and what's outside the can, right? There is innovations on both in the can and outside the can. Many times what you see, let's take a simple example like painting your own house.
Mm-hmm.
A can of paint costs you, we all know, you can go to a big box store or a paint store and buy, it costs you X. But the actual cost to do the project for you is probably 5X. So the other 4X, that's where there's a lot of opportunity for innovation as much as there is for the first X. Right? So we think a lot about inside the can innovation, but more about lately outside of the can innovation. Because if that job can be done faster, it's not the paint, it's the actual duration to complete the job. That's important to you as a customer. If I'm a body shop, the throughput through the body shop is important for me, because the more throughput I do, if I'm an insurance company, I'm going to send more work your way because I don't have to pay for rental car.
Right.
So as an insurer, that's important to me. As a paint manufacturer, I'm not just worried about the paint. Obviously, we make a really good paint and we improve that year over year with every cycle. But I need to now think about how can I make the body shop owner more productive?
Right.
Because there is value to them, which means there is value to us using our technology to make them more productive. So that's where we do a lot of innovations. We have a solution. It's branded Link, L-I-N-Q. You can Google it and see it, I'm sure. What that does is it helps the paint shop to move away from two things. One, what used to be an art to a science. So I don't need someone with, tons and tons of experience to exactly match the paint. Because let's say your car is 5 years old, 10 years old, you can't just get the OEM paint and apply it to the bumper that's deformed, because that'll look new and the rest of the car looks old. So how do you bring that weathered look to the bumper so as if nothing happened to it? Because as a customer, that's what you want, right? There's a lot of science that goes into matching that.
Right.
It used to be art. You had these master painters, if you may, that would perfectly match it. Now, you could take a photo spectrometer, match the colors, and then take it to another machine that will tell you exactly the formulation you need to do. And by the way, if you're a bigger body shop, you can even give it to the machine. It'll do the formulation for you and just quote out the paint like it's an inkjet printer.
Crazy.
Right? Now you can just take that and apply it. Maybe you need to make a couple of corrections, but not much. And that's it, right? That's the productivity we are able to add, and that's outside of the can innovation, all enabled through technology.
That's got to really drive customer, sustain those customer relationships, make them really strong, right? 40,000 body shops, did you say?
40,000 body shops in the US.
Amazing.
Yeah. And of course, we serve the global market, but I'm just giving you US numbers.
So anybody can do out of the box thinking, but here we do out of the can thinking, right? That's how we win every day. I like that.
Absolutely.
I like that. Bhaskar, one of the other special traits that I've always been impressed with is your power of connection. You probably don't remember this. I do. It was December of 2012 when we first met. It was in Maryland.
Yeah, AI, and I was at one of the Textron divisions there. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Mid-Atlantic CIO get-together.
That's right, Mid-Atlantic. That's right. Yeah, it was really, really impressive group. But you were a standout, and just your presence, your questions, the way you were thinking, even back then. That was 12, 13 years ago. So I remember that day vividly, and I had a friend there. We were collaborating together. We were speaking together, and so I called on her because I know that she stayed in touch with you, and I said, "Hey, would you provide a mystery questioner? So help me unpack Bhaskar's superpowers." So if you're ready, we're going to do mystery question number 1.
Sure. Yeah, I remember Towson University. Yeah.
That's right. Very good. Yeah. Good memory. All right. Well, let's listen in. Tell us who this is.
Hi, Bhaskar. Last August, I interviewed you for an article for CIO.com about how you were doing a lot at PPG. You were consolidating multiple ERPs into a single instance. You were adopting a cloud-only strategy. And you were innovating in a digital products group that was producing real AI solutions with significant impact. So to do all of this, you and your team were very thoughtful about change management. My question to you is this: What were one or two of the things that you and your team did that were most effective in driving cultural change, driving adoption, getting everybody to think a little differently?
This is kind of an easy one. This is a voice everybody knows, Bhaskar.
Martha Heller.
Martha Heller. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. What a great question.
Yeah. I mean, Martha's an amazing individual. We all know what she does for the IT industry, and a very good recruiter and great at maintaining and managing relationships. So have a lot of respect for what she does for the industry. I think from a change management standpoint, one is to recognize that we have to help people through significant changes, right? And anytime we talk about an IT solution, how we define success of the solution is really important, right? The success of the solution is not implementing a product and going live, right? It's really, are people using it the way it was intended to? Are we gaining the value from the system that we intended to when we did the business case for it, right? Business case, by definition, has in it a whole bunch of assumptions. Now that the solution is live, it's to bring those assumptions to reality. And so I think when you put that lens in, the product needs to be used. If it's not used, it's not adding value, right? So the measurements internally, we in IT or digital IT team is usage, not go live. It's usage.
Right.
And the second one is, are we shutting down the old system? The new system is not live until the old system is shut down.
Interesting. We don't do that very well in this profession.
Yeah. So that's how we measure it internally, right? And as we go along, if it's appropriate, I'll state some numbers. The way we measure those numbers, when I say something is X%, in reality, it's way ahead of X%, but it's at X% because the old system is not fully shut down yet. So my team knows really well what those measurements are, right? So there is a lot of focus given to usage and making sure the new solution is used. That's one thing. The other is the purpose, right? We go back to the purpose of the sponsors of the solution. They have something in mind when they approved, what is usually a sizable spend for these big projects. It's to go back to them and say, you bought into the purpose. Now that the solution is real, you need to help us realize that purpose, right? It is not an IT solution. If something is an IT project, outside of very technical stuff that we do, no project that we do is an IT project.
Right.
Every project is a business project. And when we send out our status reports on a weekly basis, for example, the business sponsor is always, the first line in the slide is actually the business sponsor's name. Then comes who the IT sponsor is that's paired up with that business sponsor, right? And they are always copied on the status reports. And if there is a risk, there is always a name, an individual's name, one name, I want to be clear, in there under the risk. And they are copied on the status report, which means there is individual responsibility that they have because their name is on there and their sponsor is on there, right? Not the name of a team. And it drives me crazy, and my team knows this now. They rarely make that mistake now. If I see a team name on there with a risk, I'm like, no team is responsible. It's got to be a person, named individual, right? Those are things that really help us drive that accountability, not just during the implementation, but post-implementation, because that becomes a risk. Non-usage becomes a risk, which means it's tied to somebody that needs to go and drive the drive or increase the usage of it. So I think that's what we try to do as much as we can, right? And when sometimes sponsorship change and we go through the noise, but overall, that's really how we try to manage as much as possible.
Amazing. Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. And Martha, always great to hear from you. Great question. And she also has the Heller Report, right? That comes out every Thursday morning. So I always recommend that people subscribe to that. And
I'm subscribed to that. I read it. And,
I do too.
It's quite interesting articles. There's always, there's 3 questions there and one person is featured, one, opportunity is featured. So really nice job.
Yeah. So Martha, great job as always. And I've got another question for you from a really special person. You know them well. They've been part of your story. So listen to this next one. So we got the change. Let's hear what this one's going to be.
Good day, Bhaskar. What's the one thing that you consistently did that got your teams aligned quickly and focused around your strategy, goals, and expected outcomes? Something you did across all the companies we worked together on.
That's Gary Cantrell, and a huge mentor and played a huge role in who I am today. I work with Gary at Textron. I work with him at Jabil. Again, somebody I look up to, somebody I still talk to periodically and run things by, and he was the first person that took a chance on me. He talked about me being in Maryland. He was the person that took a chance on me in making me a CIO for the first time at Maryland, right? But this acquisition that Textron had made. So huge respect, Gary. Thank you for the question. I suspect you know the answer to this too. So what's the one thing I consistently did, right? So it's really making sure that my team, my direct reports starting with, they know that they have my absolute trust, right? And every one of the teams that I've been part of, and when I go to a team for the first time, there's usually some sort of a assimilation session, manager assimilation session type of thing. One of the things I've consistently say to these teams is, if you have this badge working for this company that we both work for, I trust you. That's it. I don't need you to prove that, you have my trust. No, I trust you. You have this badge, I trust you. That's it. Right? It makes my life a lot easier, starting from a place of implicit trust. Right? And it's almost selfish for me. And people that are not trustworthy over a period of time will prove themselves to not be trustworthy. Right? That's so few and far between. My experience tells me that it's a lot easier to go through life implicitly trusting people than having them prove their trust. It's not worth it. It's too much energy.
Right.
That can be spent elsewhere.
When did you make that part of your leadership thinking style? Because that speed of trust is huge for a team.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, you just called out a book there, right? It's so meaningful, books like those, right? Books have been written about trust. So why are we just not taking that implicitly?
Right.
Right? I just don't know. Right? To me, it's I started my life in consulting, and it's sort of like the airline industry, right? You just show up at a place and you don't know the others, and you have to be productive from day one because you have a client looking at you. So you trust the team that is in front of you.
Right.
And trust each other. They trust me, I trust them. And probably we've met some of them at least for the first time, if not all of them for the first time. So to me, I was always taking that for granted. And when I switched from a consulting role to the corporate world, it was kind of strange for me, quite honestly. It took me about 6 months to get adjusted. I was like, why are we doing this? Why are people saying the things that they're saying to me? It's unnatural. That's when it hit me. That's because they think I don't trust them, and I do. So I made it a part of saying that explicitly out loud, saying, I trust you. You don't have to do anything to prove your trust to me. And that makes life a lot easier.
Yeah. And I'm sure they cascade that, right? Down through the organization. Your leaders then extend that same thinking and trust. And it's fantastic. Bhaskar, and Gary, just really amazing human, and appreciate him. So thank you to Gary for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm honored that Gary would actually take time to ask me a question. So given how many questions I've asked him over my career. So
everyone was excited to do this for you, Bhaskar. Trust me, it took about 1 second for them to say yes. I've got another one here that's going to be maybe another surprise for you. It's going to go back a ways. So let's listen to this next one. Another one of your superpowers.
Wow.
Hi, Bhaskar. How has your intellectual curiosity served you and your organizations throughout your career?
Yeah, for a little bit about Kim. Kim and I worked together at Textron. So she was the CIO for Cessna for quite some time. She spent some time at Bell. And then she was the CIO for all of Textron for quite some time. And I think she's at L3 now. And, great colleague and, great, we've traveled extensively when we were at Textron together, and great memories from there, great leader. And pushing the businesses, right? So it's not always easy, and she always found a way to push the businesses and to look forward and stuff. So thank you to Kim for her question and taking time out of her day to raise the question. So, intellectual curiosity, right? So I almost look at this as it's boring to not be curious. Right. How could you look at something and not know what drives it, what makes it what it is, and the people behind it, and what drives the people behind, a company or a product or a solution or whatever, right? So I think when you hear the story behind the story, right, you start to appreciate it better because you're starting to look at it from their viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost always is very different than your viewpoint because you're only looking at the surface for the most part, right? And to me, it's. I mean, there's the saying, right? If you do something, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well, right? How could I gain that passion to do something well if I don't fully appreciate it, right? So that's really where it comes from, whether it be technology or something else. It doesn't matter. Right. I think that I just need to know.
Right. Well, I think these are just great learnings, great teachings, especially for our up and comers, this next generation. So thank you, Kim McEnroth. And you're right. She's at L3 Harris doing her amazing things. And you think about these folks we've heard from, those are relationships that go back a ways that you've maintained. And so, Bhaskar, I want you to speak to the next generation of IT leaders, because I'm not sure if they understand or fully appreciate the power of relationship, right? You mentioned the consulting background, right? And now as a CIO, why should they focus on, invest in, be intentional about relationships for the long haul?
I think don't even look at it as a professional relationship, right? I mean, we all have friends from, kindergarten, primary school, middle school, whatever, right? So why do we still maintain those relationships? Because you have someone you could go to, because you have someone that could be a confidant at some point and continue to be for the rest of your life, someone that you can either go and vent, someone that you can go and ask for advice, or someone where you can give advice to or be the shoulder to cry, right? It's no different in IT, right? I don't think any of us are going through a journey or an experience that's unique.
Right.
Right? It's not. Chances are somebody has done something exactly the same, if not something adjacent. Right? So it really helps to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Am I even in the ballpark? Does this make sense? It's really easy when you know these people over a period of time and you've been the sounding board for them and they can be for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that is the foundation of it. It's not because of this or because of that. It's because it just makes life easier to have a lot of friends.
Right. That's right. This work is hard, right?
Yeah.
It ain't getting easier. And you need to be able to call those friends, right? Because
exactly. And they're not judgmental, right? Because they are in this journey. And as the IT industry, it's fairly small after a point.
Yeah.
You get to know all the people over a period of time in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I think we've gotten to know you a little bit here, Bhaskar, and it's, there's science to the company. There's a lot of innovation going on, but you haven't been talking about technology, right? And that's, maybe talk about culture, people, teams on another dimension. And I want to highlight something. And again, check my math here, make sure I got it right. 7th straight year that your organization was recognized as one of the best places to work in IT anywhere. Did you get the number right?
It's not exactly. There was one break in between when we had the CIO transition at PPG. We just missed filing for it. Otherwise it probably would have been 7. But outside of that, I can I can talk for the last 3 and the ones before, and I had an amazing predecessor. And Chris did an amazing job, with this team too. So I was handed a good set of cards. Let me put it this way.
Sure. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And he would say that you've taken those cards and done amazing things with them. So, but just hold that thought for a minute.
Sure.
Well, we might come back to that.
Okay.
But talk about your team, your 1,500 colleagues, because whenever we get together, that's usually what you talk about. You're usually bragging about them, the great work they're doing, their passion. They love this company.
Yeah, and we have a very low attrition rate. And when we do our Gallup scores, for example, and we just literally completed the Gallup, engagement surveys, and IT is always 95% or higher. Not in engagement score, in just participation, people letting know how they feel. The results will come in a month or month and a half or so. We'll see what the results are. And historically speaking, we have had one of the highest engagements across all the functions and all the businesses in the company. Right? And I don't want to say the highest, but one of the highest. Right? So it's very meaningful. That's just the trailing indicator, not a leading indicator for me. Right?
Yeah.
It's a leading indicator when the scores dramatically drop and say, what's happened? What are we missing here? We don't try to manage the score. I want to be very clear. Right? That's just an indicator for us. What we manage is the business, not the business of IT and people, not the score. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The score is a reflection, if anything. So when I talk about the people part of it, we have teams across, certainly Pittsburgh, Mexico, in Querétaro, in Wrocław, in Poland, in Czech Republic, in Barcelona, and in Malaysia. These are our technology centers, if you may, where we have pretty good sized people. There's it's more than 1,500, but we have them spread across, plus third parties. Right? I'm not including third parties in this number. To me, what transcends, irrespective of the geography or the time zone, is what you called out and what you recognize, which is the passion that people have for the stuff that they support, whether it's the business that they directly support or one of the technology COEs that they support, that they're part of. It's the passion to do the right thing, and it's the passion to move the business forward, right? I think that's the standout, and that's what, all of that starts with the purpose, and all of that starts with the trust we place in them, right? Nobody's a micromanager, right? You are responsible for this. We expect you to do this. It's that simple.
Right.
Right. And that's what you're evaluated on, because that's what you signed up to do.
Well, the proof's in the pudding. Look at those scores, right? Look at those Gallup scores, best places to work, attrition low, doesn't just happen. And, Bhaskar, as I think of leaders, sometimes don't realize the long tail that you have, the long impact you have on people. So I went and found somebody that knows you from a couple companies ago.
Wow.
Who started working for you out of college and still remembers you to this day. They don't work for you today, so I just want to give you that little hint. All right, so let's listen in to this great question, and it's a pretty meaty one, so I'm looking forward to the answer.
Something that I've always admired about you since working for you has been that you've always been able to make time for people, no matter how busy you've become, how many more responsibilities you've taken on, how crazy of a timing it is. Whenever I would come to your desk or to your office with a question or asking for advice or just wanting to be heard, you made time for it. And I've noticed that in my career, when I've become very busy or I've taken on more responsibilities, it's been more difficult for me to be present with people coming to my door. So my question for you is, how do you maintain that of being very productive and achieving stuff, especially during hectic times or times that are very challenging, but still being there for your people?
That's Kevin Pierre. He was a LDP candidate And I was his mentor as a leadership development program at JPL. And I still remember, he actually does a lot of swing dancing for those. He is, I'd actually coached him to leave the company to pursue his MBA. Right, this is one of the questions he had, and I actually told him, what kind of MBA. So I remember those conversations really well because that's the right thing for him, right? So to me, what's right for the individual is very, very important. And if there is no alignment with the company, that's fine, right? We have to do what's right for the individual. And most often than not, there is alignment. In his case, his aspirations didn't match. And and I think he's somewhere in Spain, if I remember right now. So, he finished his MBA and in one of the top European schools and doing investment, in some investment firm. That's what he's doing.
And by the way, he said, this was so long ago, Bhaskar will never remember me. And you did. So Kevin, yeah, right back at you.
To me, it's, as much as we say, we work in technology, the job the minute you are manager or above in an organization, when you're responsible for people, your primary job is the people. That's the job. It's not anything else, right? And in my role, I get to do two things and only two things really when it comes down to it, besides relationship management, etc., with the rest of the executive group and things like that. One is capital allocation. The other is people decisions. That's it. I don't make any technology decisions, quite honestly, because I rely on people to come back with recommendations on technology decisions. So all I have to get right is this one thing, which is people. And the only way to make people decision is to know them. If I don't know them, the only way to know them is to spend time with them.
Right.
Right? So if I define the role that I'm in as a people role, which it is, then it gets easier. So why would I ever say no when somebody wants to meet with me and talk about, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. It brings out a side of them. And I'm just watching for what is important for the job that I have to do and what they have to say. Right? My responsibility is just people.
Yeah. It just made me think as you're going through the interview process and you're helping to select team members, how do you assess fit for culture, chemistry? You assume that they've already been vetted on the technical side, right? They've got the chops, but how do you know?
There are usually three things that I look for, right? Attitude, aptitude, and emotional intelligence. Those are the three parameters. Everything else we can teach. Right? So if those three things are there, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm talking to a person, right? If those three things are there, the rest will add up.
Well, I've got another person. Fast forward now, little hint, part of your organization today. You mentioned LDP, Leadership Development Program. So she's been very active in the program that we've been working on together. So let's listen to her question, see if you can recognize this voice.
Hello, Bhaskar. When I think of your superpowers after working for you for a few years, one of them is putting implicit trust in your people, and another is early career development. Can you talk about why these philosophies are important to you?
That's Laura Harshberger.
Wow, you're good. Thank you, Laura. Yeah.
Thanks, Laura. And she's responsible for a huge part of our business and the operations. So she supports all of industrial businesses and all operations globally. So she's got a pretty meaty portfolio. And to me, we all talk about the results, right? But the results just don't happen, right? You need to worry about the ingredients before the final product comes out, right? If you don't start worrying about it at the beginning, then the end product is not going to be right? Or not going to be ideal or not what you want, etc. So from that standpoint, if at the early part of my career, if I had not had the kind of mentors that I had, fortunate enough to have, like Gary being one of them that we mentioned, who's played a huge part in who I am today, and others even earlier than that. When my first job, I was fortunate enough to have an amazing manager, Shankar, back in India. And I'm talking, 30 plus years ago now, right? And later in my job, when I first came to the US, Sean Kiley, when I worked at Sybase, or when I worked at Prudential, John Lim, I remember them, right, really well. These are really amazing managers. There's so much I've learned from each and every one of them over the years, right? They took a chance on me. It could have been something simple. It could have been giving me an assignment, but they took a chance on me, and that was meaningful that I remember them. And I remember exactly what each and every one of them took a chance on me on, right? If I don't do the same thing, if I don't pay forward, I mean, these are going to be future leaders in the industry, right? So we have to do that. So it's a responsibility that we have as leaders in the organization, or leaders in this field, I should say, right? That to me that's why it's important for me to spend time with people, because at the end of the day, that's what's important. That's what carries on. Technologies come and go.
You probably won't be surprised that several of the people have been through the Pittsburgh IT Leadership Development Program. Laura is the direct manager. It's probably not surprising to you.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, she does an amazing job. She used to run our internship program. Now she is, leading the LDP program. She's always been very active in the community on women's leadership and WLN, ERN that we have. So yeah, she's an amazing individual.
Well, thank you again, Laura, and just being so special. And, a fun fact for the audience, Bhaskar. So this leadership development program, we now run around the world. We do a lot of this, right? Building future leaders. And I always like to give credit where credit is due. That program started here in Pittsburgh. There was a group of CIOs who just had a vision, and they wanted to develop future leaders in a cohort format. And so we partnered, we built it together, and it all started here. And
wow.
Give those folks credit every day. And again, just so appreciative, because we collaborate a lot on that, and we appreciate every year. You're like, I'm gonna get people in there. I've got a handful of people coming your way, and it's important to you.
Absolutely, people development. As I said, that's the primary job.
You're big on pay it forward internally. You're also big on pay it forward externally. And we do the same thing with the podcast, right? We have the Tech for Good scholarship, a scholarship to that program, actually. So, Bhaskar, today you have a chance to gift a seat in that program to an organization that you support, that you partner with, ideally STEM related. So anybody come to mind that you'd like to gift that to?
As you describe it, the first thing that comes to mind is the work that we do with the local Boys and Girls Club, right? We every year sponsor and take a leadership role in actually doing the courses for what we call the AIPI, or the Artificial Intelligence Pathways Institute. So we teach the foundational skills, things like reinforced learning and examples and, real life examples. And it's almost like a couple months worth program, and it's about to start, by the way, for this year's cohort. And there is I think about 100 to 150 people, depending on the year. It ebbs and flows. We train, and it's amazing to see the level of enthusiasm the students that go through it. I mean, I'm talking about primary, elementary school, middle school level kids. It's great to see the enthusiasm that they show for this, and the resources that we provide them, and how they utilize the resource. And then there is a final presentation they all do, and it's amazing to see them wearing their suits and coming up and talking as a group in front of us, and in talking about the projects. And amazingly impressive organization, and the children that are part of. And the volunteer time that the PPG Digital IT team spends every year, right? And I'm incredibly honored to be a sponsor of the program on behalf of PPG and the PPG Foundation. and the passion that the team shows in being part of it. We don't have to try too hard to get volunteers to go into these Boys and Girls Club venues and teach them. So that's what comes to mind.
Amazing. That's I can't think of a better organization. So thank you for that work. And
no, thank you for the sponsorship. I really appreciate it. So
yeah, we're over $400,000 now in scholarships since we started the podcast. So it's become something bigger than we anticipated, and I'm just very fortunate to be able to make it be the spokesperson for it. So really excited. So I have a couple more questions for you, mystery questioners, and this next one. I'm not gonna set this up. I just want to let you just soak it in. So let's listen to this next question.
that's
Bhaskar.
exciting. Yeah.
Bhaskar, what's a belief you have about leadership? One you held earlier in your career that you've completely abandoned, and what replaced it? Or what's a belief you've always held about leadership, especially early in your career, that you've completely embraced? And how has that shown up?
This is Christina, who is the CEO of Pittsburgh Airports.
That's right.
So, and she's doing an amazing job building a brand new Pittsburgh airport without any taxpayer funding.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so great job, Christina. And I'm honored to be serving with you on the bank board. A lot of people would have heard me say this in different venues, stages, etc. In the earlier part of my career, and my views on this changed probably in the last 5 years or so. Right? I would say you are responsible for your own career to my team. Right? Seems very simple and fair. You're responsible for your career. I mean, what's wrong with that, right? What I realized over a period of time, and all of this started off with one of the one-on-one skip level conversations I was having. This individual is a very, very good performer, excellent performer. And most companies are used to either formally or informally think in terms of performance and potential and aspiration, right? Some sort of a 2 or 3 dimensions. When we talk about performance, we like to put people in a box, whether it's a two-dimensional box or a 3-dimensional box. This person was amazing on the performance and potential, in my view. But the aspiration part of it didn't come through. I'm going to be very careful in saying this. It's not that the person did not have the aspiration. They did not express the aspiration. So under my old thought process, you're responsible for your own career. This person never expressed the aspiration. We would be doing disservice. I would be doing disservice to this individual who has always done an amazing job no matter what was given to them. Right?
Got it.
This person happened to be an introvert.
We have a couple of those around our industry.
I am an introvert. So that hit me hard. Once I prodded the person, they were able to say, yeah, of course I want to do that. But nobody had asked, and they showed up in the wrong place in those 3-dimensional charts, right? That's why I don't ever say that you are responsible for your own career anymore, right? So the ask of all of my direct reports and the managers that are responsible for others is, have you asked the person what they want to do? Have you explicitly had the conversation with the individual? Don't assume.
Right.
Right? That's something I've completely changed, and I don't ever bring that up. And in fact, it's the other way around. I say, have you asked? So that's a complete change in how I think about career development.
So you set the bar now for leaders, and so you want them to draw that out. Speak to those folks out there who are the introverts. How would they demonstrate that? How would they show aspiration?
That's a difficult one because you're starting with a base where we are saying they're introverts. They're not going to do it. We can tell them all we want.
Right.
They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So we, the managers, are doing a disservice if they don't get that out. They're doing something to the organization. They're doing a disservice to themselves if they don't get that out. So the responsibility is on the people that have that. With power comes responsibility, and this is the responsibility.
Well, Chris, great question. And you kind of brushed over it, but you and Chris are on the board of a bank.
That's correct. So we are on board of the S&T Bank that's based here in Pennsylvania, in this southwestern Pennsylvania region, in Indiana, PA. It's a great bank that puts people first. Right. So it's amazing for a bank to say we put people first. But if you go and talk to anyone that works with the bank, that uses the services of the bank, they will tell you what it means.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Purpose-driven organization.
Yeah, that's a
just
good,
like PPG. Yeah.
I could see that being a good interview for you when you were talking about that board role. There's good alignment there.
Absolutely, great fit.
People first. One more mystery question for you, and you're going to appreciate this person again and again. He's going to have a question that's going to help us learn more about Bhaskar. So listen in.
I'm excited.
Bhaskar, you've had a long and successful career in various roles across diverse industries and are now with my favorite company, PPG. Many will know you as a CIO, but your LinkedIn profile doesn't reflect other aspects of your life. Can you share some of your interests outside the company and how you can balance those with a demanding role of leading the technology organization at PPG?
That's Chris Caruso.
It's funny, we mentioned his name earlier, right?
Yeah. So my predecessor, amazing human. And as I noted earlier, gave me a really good set of hands to take forward. We are really good friends. We still meet periodically, and we have our chats. And so thanks, Chris, for giving me what you gave me 4.5 years ago. And Chris knows about this. That's why he brought this up. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I really don't talk about this a whole lot, and because this is why it's not in my LinkedIn profile, etc. 2 days a month, I volunteer at our local EMS service in the community I live in. So I'm a nationally certified EMT. So depending on what the job is, I drive an ambulance or treat the patient in the back or in the front driving the ambulance. Something small I do to give back to the community, and it's takes away from the day-to-day job, because when you're in front of the patient or transporting a patient, you're not thinking about anything else.
Right.
So that sort of an intense focus in a selfish way is actually very helpful. Right. And I've come to learn a lot about how EMS practices are managed, how they are not funded well, and the travails of that industry, if you may. And really, really glad to be part of the Foxwall EMS service, which is in the Fox Chapel area that I live in Pittsburgh. And a huge shout out to the men and women of Foxwall EMS, and for accepting me. And it's amazing, and it's quite honestly very humbling. Right, a lot of my colleagues there, many of them are med school students or aspiring med school students, and their skill sets are way, way better than my skill sets. And to learn from them, to learn from someone that's 22 years old, it's real, right? And it's very humbling. At the same time, that's the job I signed up to do, so I better learn. Otherwise, I'm doing a disservice to a patient.
Gosh, I wish I had one of those 22-year-olds out there in the field with you with a mystery question, what they're learning from Bhaskar, right? And I don't think it's a small thing at all, Bhaskar. That's pretty special. And my mind's going in all kinds of places of the parallels between a corporate CIO and EMT.
Yeah, we rarely ever talk about anything corporate there. So.
But just, working under duress, right? The stress, the pace, the focus you got to have at that time. Pretty amazing. But well, thank you, Chris, for that. Well, amazing conversation, Bhaskar. I could go another hour. I want to be respectful of you and your time. I know you just got back from a long trip, and but the good news is everyone knows we're gonna work on an article together. Keep this conversation. So next week on CIO.com, we'll have an article, and some of the things that I've saved for that article, because there was a lot of things I wanted to talk about, but we're going to talk about your AI journey. I guess people talk about AI. Maybe we should talk about it, Bhaskar. I want to get your perspective on that because you were an early pioneer there. Your cloud journey has been really special and game changing. We might even talk about ERP because yours has been different, business impacting, and the way you've approached it. I want to talk about your gift of taking the complex and making it simple or simplifying it. And I think that's a real gift of yours. And so then the other thing, and people can tell this now, and this is your EMT skill, your ability to bring calm to any situation. And I've always admired that about you.
I don't know, it drives my wife nuts.
Well, that's our job, Bhaskar. That's our job. But on behalf of our audience, all of our mystery questioners, the amazing people here at PMI Digital, thank you so much, Bhaskar. This was so much fun. I've learned a lot. It's inspiring. And I can't wait for this to be distributed to the world.
No, I can't thank enough all of those people. They've taken time out of that day to ask the questions, that very meaningful questions that they asked. So thank you to all of them, and they all have added so much to who I am today. So thank you for that.
Bhaskar Ramachandran, always amazing. I've known him since December 12th, 2012, and that was a great day. So again, we'll see you all next time.